Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The impact of the sales tax referendum on benefits for fire and police, tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Chairman of the Memphis City Council, Kemp Conrad. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Tommy Malone is President of the Firefighters Association. Thank you for being here again.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. We're talking about the sales tax referendum, and at various points I might actually even just read from some of the language. You are here representing the Firefighters Union, Tommy, but you and the police union are by and large kind of working together in terms of the advocacy for this sales tax referendum. But we couldn't get anyone from the police union to be here. They declined to attend. I'm going to start with you. I kind of flipped a coin, so I don't know if it's better or worse, but I flipped a coin that I would start with the union representative. This sales tax referendum, early voting is underway, continues through September 28th and election day on October 3rd. This sales tax referendum does what for your members and for the police members?
It will restore the pre-2014 benefits. Contrary to what's being put out, it doesn't include everybody as the city run the figures for everyone. It only includes the pre-24. Even in the pension side, anybody that came on after July 1 of 2016 are not included in this simply because the law doesn't allow us to go after it. It was all the people that were on the job prior to 2016, and when the council and the city came up with some arbitrary figure of 7.5 years, which was still a misnomer to all of us. So it has nothing to do with every single one as being put out. It's a costed out thing, and it's in according to the law and the benefit that we could go after.
And this is all on the back of cuts to benefits that took place in what,
2014.
2014 for fire and police, changes to health care benefits for retirees, and the pension plan. Is that correct?
And kicking the spouses off of the active people's insurance.
And the sales tax hike, and I'm going to turn to Bill just so we get our kind of bases covered here. It's a
0.5%.
A 0.5%, which would take the current rate right now is 9.25. It would take it up to 9.75. Of that amount, 7% goes to the state. Currently, 2.25 goes to the city and the county.
Right.
And this extra 0.5%, which would take it from 0.25 to 0.75. The sales tax proposal presents it as going to the city, but technically the Shelby County Commission, Shelby County government has the right, if that increase goes through, to take half of that money.
Yes.
No.
Okay. Okay. So it does not. Okay. So that is one big point. So I wanted to do as best I could to kind of lay out the numbers there. That is a big point that people are pushing back on, that the proposal is that all that money would have to go to the city and would have to go to the things outlined in the referendum. Other people are saying, no, the county has this right to take 50% of that. You're saying no.
Let me explain it. We went to the state election commission, the state attorneys. We went to the city. There is an option that the county could, with another referendum that everybody would vote on, could get the money. If that did happen, they would keep half, the city would get half. It'd be about a $30 million windfall for the city. They can't arbitrarily, the county, if this passes, say, we want half of the money. They have to pass a referendum which would negate our referendum. And this is all the legalese and the state that we've met with. It has not, the county had an option to take this over. The city had an option to take this over when
to do it through ordinance, or,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
And the bottom line is the county can't arbitrarily take this referendum and say we want half.
Okay. Let me get Kemp in. You are opposed. You've been pretty vocal about being opposed to. You and Edmund Ford from the County Commission, former city councilman, co-authored an op-ed in the Daily Memphian, vehemently opposing this referendum. Why?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Malone for being here today. I've enjoyed working with him over the past 10 years, and I think it says a lot that the police union is not here. I think when you can't argue the facts, you pound the table, and I think that's what we'll hear a lot of from them. I think y'all are helping make my point. It's very confusing. I mean, we just spent 5 minutes talking about a referendum this, the state this. The reality is the county can take half. It's not just a vote. They have to go through a process. But as an elected official, when you sit in these seats, you have to look at what is the risk, what could happen. And that is a very real possibility. I want to say one thing too. I'm doing this. I fought for this 5 years ago, and I'm speaking out for it now because I think it's best for Memphis. And in my heart of hearts, I think it's best for our first responders. There's no amount of money that you can pay a police officer or a firefighter for the job they do. They legit put their lives on the line every single day, okay? However, we have a responsibility to balance a budget and thus to pay them fairly with a competitive rate to other places they could go work, and in an honest way that's durable over the long term so they can know that their pension is going to be there, unlike the plan we had in the past. We have already covered this ground 5 years ago. We had 3 choices 5 years ago, and we'll have it again if this passes. We could drastically cut the size of government and have mass layoffs, including fire and police. We could have raised the property tax rate by about 30%, which would have put us on a Detroit-like spiral to bankruptcy, in my view, which would have jeopardized the pension plan. People would have got a fraction of what they were expecting. Or we could do reforms, and that's what we did. We shored up the pension plan because folks didn't have another option. They're not in Social Security. People did have other health care options. And the reality is, Mr. Malone said we can't do it because of the law. They'd like to get more people in. He said that. There are folks on the council who don't believe fire and police should be treated differently. I do. I believe they should have a different pension plan they do. So when I look at this, I have to look at what is the risk if this passes. And there is a very real risk that everybody goes back into the plan. That's always a debate on the council, okay? So this generates a little over $50 million in revenue, okay? The county could take half, that's 25. And if everybody goes back in, it's 43 million. I think in your Daily Memphian article, it was in the 30 million range. There's a real reality that we are back in the hole year one. And sales tax growth grows like this. In a downturn, it probably goes down $50 to $40 million. What are healthcare costs doing? That trend line is like this. We're going to be right back in the same place. So this is a much bigger issue. It's, do we want to look backwards to the day? Who have you endorsed for mayor, Mr. Malone? Willie Harrington? Do we want to look back to the days of Willie Harrington, a rape crisis center that didn't work, untested sexual assault kits, a benefits policy that didn't work, or do we want to look forward to a new Memphis where we're creating 20,000 jobs, 3.8% unemployment, we're hiring police officers, attrition's back to a normal level.
Let's break down.
That's what this is really about.
We got 20 more minutes, so we got plenty of time to get through some of these things. But I want to get to the dynamic on the city council. So if the referendum passes, and let's say, just to keep it simple, the county doesn't step in and take 50% of that. This is the city council. You've been on for what, 10 years now? You're two times chairman, bound to spend that money in the way that the unions would like?
This will probably be another thing we can go back and forth on for 5 to 10 minutes. And the answer is no. The city council will appropriate that money every year. So if people vote yes for this, they're voting to tax themselves, and the language is aspirational on. Okay. So the city council will appropriate it.
And they can appropriate it however they
right, and we don't know who's going to be on
Let me get Tommy in. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. We've got plenty of time, and then I got to get Bill in.
Let me say
Are you worried that the council won't appropriate the way you intend?
Not in the least. Not in the least.
Why? Why do you trust?
Number one, because if you look at it, they know that would create a lawsuit. That would be political suicide for anybody that did that. If this passes by the citizens are passing an ordinance. Instead of the council passing an ordinance, the citizens are passing this ordinance. It's according to the state. And Chairman Conrad can say all he wants, and he can talk about politics and who we endorsed and rape crit. Has nothing to do with this. It's a narrow box. They're trying to make it a big box because they haven't listened to the citizens. The citizens voted pre-K down 60-40. They funded pre-K with taxpayer dollars. They were not worried about what was happening with that half cent when they were going to try to use it for pre-K. Pre-K was going to go up. More people were going to be on it. Where was that going to happen? But the bottom line is the state treasurer and the state election commission's attorney all have opined that this is dictated by the citizens,
And that it's
and it's an ordinance that's binding
Okay.
on this.
Let me bring Bill in.
I think from what I have heard that there is major disagreement over the numbers of how much revenue this is going to produce. Do you agree with the numbers that Chairman Conrad had for how much revenue this is going to produce?
The number we're using came from the mayor, $57 million. When we met with the mayor.
57, 50s, we'll call it 50.
We're close.
Yeah.
When we met with the mayor, Bill, and we listened, I did. We've been working on this for 2 years. This isn't something we just dreamed up. And the mayor says, y'all come up here with your handout with no solutions. Get me $35 million and I'll restore the benefits. That's exactly what he said, almost verbatim. So we went to work, and the rest is history. We've been beating this for a year and a half, getting citizens talking to citizens. I know Chairman Conrad mentioned something about it was a hoax about street paving and pre-K. That's what the citizens said when we were out there. What are you going to do with the extra money? The reason they didn't pay us pre-K the first time is because they had all this excess money, and the citizens said, we're not trusting them with that money. The unions didn't say that. The Memphis citizens said it.
Well, it was also a sales tax hike as well, which is a particularly sensitive topic. Do you think that that voters are going to have a different view because of where the money goes for in this case?
Absolutely, I do, because the citizens are now realizing the turnover we're having in fire and police, that's general fund dollars, that's ad valorem money going out the door by the millions when we can't retain people. We've hired. I'll give everybody credit. We've hired, but we're not retaining. Since 2016, and the number you talked about on the police department, they got a net gain of all this 400-something people they've hired of like 50, 52 people.
Because of so many people leaving.
That's correct.
Kemp, there have been pay raises, but the mayor himself has also said that cutting the benefits played some role, not the complete role, but played some role in the problems that the city has had with police and fire retention, police retention in particular. So should something be done with the benefits to improve that?
Something has been done. Again, I think we're going in the right direction. The answer for Memphis is not going backwards and digging ourselves back into the hole that we dug ourselves out of. It's growth. We're growing right now. We're adding jobs, we're adding companies. There's a lot of great things going on in the city. That is how we are going to grow Memphis so we can continue to pay our first responders more. Fire, over the last 3 years, has had a pay increases 10%. Police, 9.75 to 11%. We've hired 450 police officers over the last 3 years. We're going to hire 196 in 2019. That's the most since 2019. Attrition levels, if you want to know the facts, I've got them right here for police, and I've got them right here for fire.
We won't be able to see that. But
the reality is, there's always attrition because people are leaving. We are back. We did have a blip in 2015. We are back to normal levels. Police is down 19% since 2014. We have a fire department that's fully staffed. And that is the reality.
Let me talk about police for a second. Again,
what will make Memphis safer is to keep going the direction we're in and to continue to grow Memphis, not to go back and dig another.
We invited folks from the police union on it, and they declined to be here. But is not the pushback? And I asked Mayor Strickland, he was on a couple weeks ago, this same question. He was on the council when these benefits were reduced. Was there if you could go back, would you have done it differently? In the sense that crime, everyone can see that crime has gone up.
It's actually down.
Let me back up. There is a big crime problem in Memphis. There is a violent crime problem in Memphis. The mayor, I assume you are saying we need more police. Was the cost of reducing those benefits worth it, given, because there's a cost associated with crime. There's an economic development cost, a quality of life cost. let alone the cost of life and so on. Was there a better way to have done it in hindsight?
The better way to have done it, and Tommy may have wanted to work on this, but most of the unions didn't. The better way to have done it would have been 8 years ago when I proposed tiering retiree health care based on years of service. So the longer you work, that would have been a better way to do it. But the unions, for the most part, they didn't want to give an inch. And I said, if we don't do some of these things now, it's going to get worse and worse. That would have been better. I'm about solutions in the center.
Okay.
We had no one to deal with. And the answer to your question is yes, we are better off because our result would have been people laid off, a 30% tax increase.
The unions, that's the smoke and mirrors that they use, these high numbers.
Hold on.
Number one, the unions didn't want to do anything. And he's talking about the police. I have numbers for the police. We're not even near this 2,400 that we're looking at. We've got a little over 2,000. They dropped it from 24-something to 23-something, trying to attain it. They've got a total net of 51 people. But regardless of all that, that's everybody can see that differently. The unions didn't want to do anything. That's a crock. All of our union people are willingly on the pension. We went up, everybody that wasn't vested agreed, not made to, agreed. They went up 0.5 cent every year for 3 years on their contribution to the pension. The city of Memphis says, we're going to go up on ours too. No, they did not. Our people are paying 8%. You know what the original number the city pays? 6%. They have to make up it because the state's making them do that. The number one thing, if you read the articles, and this is not what I want to debate about what happened, but the bottom line, when you read the articles, Memphis is the cheapest city paying their. We didn't ask for the pension back in the 70s. We said put us back on Social Security.
Well,
no.
But aren't other cities faced? I mean, with this sort of fiscal cliff that pensions create? I mean, the whole state of Illinois, for instance, has been teetering on the verge of a catastrophe for years because of benefit. Didn't some change have to be made to make those expenses manageable, those pension and benefit expenses manageable, particularly in a city that suffers from a tremendous amount of poverty and already has a very high tax rate?
Let me ask this. When you pay, how do you change when a city's paying less than they would pay for Social Security? They're paying less than they would pay per employee for Social Security. They're paying 6% and it's 6.25. So you talk about Illinois. Yeah. The fire and police pensions in Illinois are not in trouble. He talked about Detroit. Detroit, the pension plans in Detroit for fire was the most solvent piece of work they had. So the thing about this is we're talking about should things have to be changed. Regardless if they had to be or they didn't, they were.
Okay.
Now the key is we're trying to get it back through the direction of the sitting mayor said, give me something to work with and we'll do it.
All right, Bill, let me get Bill.
If the thing was so bad, the reason why there was, I'm not going to, the 1 year there was a blip. We are back, these are the facts. We are back down to normal levels of attrition. The reason we're not back and the number is lower, the net number is lower as it should be, is because the folks that Mr. Malone's organization and the organization that wouldn't show up here because the person they're supporting for mayor and his predecessor had no recruiting for it takes a while to build a pipeline. So if things were so bad, we wouldn't be getting these officers here and all these great things wouldn't be going on in Memphis. It's because of those decisions, as hard as they were, and it was because of 2 decades of dealings between the unions and Mayor Harrington, who they're now supporting, that got us into this mess. It was fiscal arson, frankly, and and responsible people had to put that fire out, and now that's why I'm speaking up on it again. Let me say, too, talk about attrition. The police union who's not here, I wish they were here to defend themselves. Mike Williams, he hosted recruiting fairs for other police departments. So don't talk to me about attrition and people leaving when you are hosting at the Union Hall a recruiting fair for other departments or paying for billboards.
Right.
Are you with them or are you with the folks that have put the city on the right track? That's what this is about.
All right, Bill.
Tommy, this goes way beyond dollars and cents.
Sure.
Is this an emotional issue?
Here's the thing. The thing is, the city can say what they want. And you just heard the councilman say, we're going to grow our way out of it. Well, if we grow our way out of it, sales tax is going to grow too. Common sense to me. Right now, the emotional part is the fact that people are leaving their home city. We've got, since we started this petition, we've had numerous calls. As you know, I'm not speaking for the police department other than their numbers. The fire department has got a lateral program. We've got a different kind of hiring program. We lowered the age to 19. Since 2016, there has not been 10% raise in the past 3 years. That's totally false. Number 2, we lowered the age to 19. We still have a retention rate since 2016 to today of less than 50%. Now, we're not having a problem hiring these people. They coming in 3 or 4 years, they get all their experience, they get all their certifications, and they're a hot commodity. He talked about what the police did. Let me tell you what happened to fire. Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth. There was 9 cities in here setting up in hotels around this city, recruiting our paramedics and firefighters. And it was successful. But here's the big thing. We talk about we're treating our first responders so good. Our people are leaving for Germantown, Collierville, South Haven. We used to recruit all those people in here. We are now losing. He says it's slowed up. In my career, nobody ever quit the fire department in Memphis.
Kemp, to the point about benefits, do pay raises alone make up for the loss of benefits? Or is there a plan down the road with economic growth to improve the benefits?
We can't afford health care for life. You can't have you can't have a program where someone can work for the city for 10 years and then retire, and even if they can go get health insurance somewhere else, city taxpayers are paying 70% of their premium. The numbers don't work. And of the pension thing that Tommy said they were part of solving for, and they were in that, and I appreciate it, of the $43 million of cost, if everybody comes back in, and I'm sure Mr. Malone or the Police Association wouldn't mind if everybody got back into the program, only $3 million of that cost is the additional pension cost. $40 million of it is healthcare costs. That's where the big number is. We provided a lot of solutions for those folks, and the math doesn't add up. If it's $57 million, if the county takes their part, even if they don't, we're at $43 million. If there is a dip in the economy, the numbers are going to cross again. We're going to be back in the same hole. We're going to be back.
When did you get to $40 million? Because when they
it's a healthcare cost.
PwC, when they cut the healthcare cost, they said it would save $25 million. That's in print. So the $40 million is another smoke scare.
It's PwC and our finance team.
Is that the same group you told Wharton that you didn't trust their figures?
43. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I know you didn't.
It's $43 million. Okay, that's the number. That's how we've been able to fund the pension arc. We've done all this without a tax increase. It was a $50 million annual lift. We put over $200 million over the last 4 years into the pension plan. We've over $25 million a year in pay raises, most of those to public safety. Public safety is over 2/3 of our budget, $450 million out of $708 million.
Tommy,
public safeties like this, parks, youth, everything. We can only invest
we got
much in this.
4 minutes left.
Tommy, to his point about the sales tax, bond rating agencies take the position routinely that in terms of the city's financial stability, they would always rather see a property tax hike than a sales tax hike, because the sales tax rate and revenues that the city derives from it can be unstable. Depending on how the national economy is going. Do you understand or do you agree that there could be problems down the road with pinning restoring these benefits on the sales tax revenue figures?
Let me say this. First of all, let me quote some figures. Number one, if we raise the property tax, there's roughly 650,000 people live in the city. There's a little over 300 homeowners that would foot that bill. If we, on the sales tax, there's 650,000 people live in the city. There's 1.5 million people in the city, in this city every day. So we've got people coming in here, double the amount of people coming in here that will pay the sales tax. Then you follow up on what the Convention and Visitors Bureau said. We have 1 million people from out of state coming to Memphis every month.
Okay.
So no, I do not think it's a problem, or we would not be going here. I am a taxpayer.
Mm-hmm. Since we've gotten into that in the op-ed piece that Kemp and Edmund Ford wrote, they talked about the number of firefighters and police officers who work for the city but do not live in the city. Mm-hmm. Is that
they
fair?
talked about retirees that don't live in the city.
Yeah.
Now let me say this: a retiree, which I am one, that's what you work your life for, to be able to go where you want to and live in less crime cities or warmer cities or colder cities. But the main thing is they spent 25 to 40 years protecting and fighting for this city, risking their life every day. So now as they get in the twilight of their lives, That's something you want to hold against them? Well, then why does he vote for MLG&W to get their retirees to get a raise? They don't live in the city.
I'll just say, I don't care where our police and firefighters live.
Right now they're required to live in the city.
I understand. Listen, this is a tough job. I'd love for them to live here. It doesn't matter to me. Retirees, I agree. But the point is, we have limited dollars, especially to Commissioner Ford, when we've got a lot of needs in Memphis, and when 2/3 of the folks don't live here and all these costs, I think that is a relevant issue. Let me say one thing. They talk about pre-K and paving. The reality is those things pull well. There's not going to be any money left for those things. We've already funded pre-K. The city did it. We've done it. Full stop. It's done. Paving, we've done 73. Of course, this is taxpayer dollars, Tommy. Come on. $73.5 million in paving the last 3 years. The 4 years prior with his mayoral candidate, $40 million. We've doubled our paving budget.
Election campaign here at this
We've
table.
doubled our. These are the stakes. Do you want to go back to where we've been?
We are out of time. I want to thank you both for being
New
here.
Memphis or old Memphis? Vote no on this referendum.
Early voting goes through the 28th. Election day is October 3rd. Bill has done profiles and interviews on the Daily Memphian site with lots of candidates and lots of issues. We've done interviews with Mayor Strickland and candidate for Mayor Tammy Sawyer. We appreciate both y'all being here. Thank you for listening. Join us again next week. Then we'll do a radio.
Maybe time to get Mike Williams.